All right. Good evening. Tonight I would like to go over using the if conditional statement, and then we'll change that into the switch. The switch is not covered in the text. The example will always also provide some concepts that will be used for the assignment. On the left-hand side of the window, my left, I have Komodo Edit. However, you can use Adobe Brackets or whichever editor you want, and I have a little bit of coding set up already. On the right-hand side, I have the Chrome browser. So if you take a look on the left in the body, there's my H1, and underneath there I have, this is my placeholder. I have an ID equals response, but I actually have something in it. I have some text in HTML. And this is technically the inner HTML property, and this is where we'll be writing our output to the page. On the assignment, you can use as many placeholders as you want. You're more than welcome to write the output however you'd like. You're more than welcome to use any HTML and CSS if you want to reformat the assignment file also. All right, so I'm using for a demo this evening the prompt method. The assignment does not use that. It automatically will generate a random number for you because the code to do that is in the starter file with you. The starter file is with the sample code on the public box folder. So the prompt method is very similar to the alert. It gives you this little box and it accepts a value. And because it accepts a value, we can store the value in this variable. So it takes two parameters. The first parameter is required. It's what you're asking, and let me make this a little bit more straightforward. Enter your age, so they know what we're asking them, and this is just a default. So if I were to save this and reload my page on the right, there's my prompt. There's the enter your age, which is the first parameter of this method, and this is the default 21. And if I were to take the default and say OK, then that would be stored in this variable. So this is the prompt method of the window object, similar to the alert method of the window object also. Technically, I don't have to say window.prompt. And we know it's a method because it has the parentheses. Methods and functions always have parentheses. Sometimes they take parameters, sometimes they don't. Now, if I were to test, and it's always a good idea to test the value of your variables so you know indeed that you're on the right track. And one way of doing that is with a very simple alert. There are other ways of doing that using your browser development tools, and I have a video for that in the debugging section for you. So if I save this and I reload on the right-hand side, there's my prompt, and I'm going to enter 18 this time and say OK. Now there's my alert telling me that indeed the value of 18 was stored there. All right, so that being said, we know that our prompt is working correctly. And my suggestion is always to write 1 or 2 lines of code and test. Write and test. That way, if there is a problem, you'll catch it in the beginning rather than sitting there wondering why nothing is writing to the page because the error was 10 lines ahead. All right, so here's the scenario for tonight. Based on the age that is entered, we are going to output to the user, your age is, and that will be the actual value that the age variable will hold. And then we're also going to add to that expression, and you are A. All right, A is going, not A, is a category. All right, and so I have a variable for category. I'm initializing it to unknown. It's a literal. And in our if, we're going to say if the person is under 13, they will be a youth. If they're between 13 and I'll say 18, they're adult. If they're over, okay, let me do teen. Okay, I did it differently. Teen and adult. Teen and adult. Okay, that's easier. 3 categories. All right, so the first thing we're doing is the if, and it takes a condition. And notice the red line, that's my editor. showing me that there's a mistake because I haven't finished anything yet. All right, if age, which is the variable we're testing, is less than 13. Now, we're playing along assuming that the user is entering a valid age. If they enter 0 or -1, it's not a valid age. This expression will still be true. However, if they enter text, it's not going to work. So we're just playing around with this and assuming that they're doing it correctly. In the future, we'll look at checking to make sure that the entry is technically correct. All right, so the way that this if works, if this condition is true, the code inside the curly braces will execute. So what we want to do here is we want to set a value for the category. So the category would be youth. So in the assignment, you want to get your values. You're going to need a value for the number of pounds. You'll need a value for the shipping. You'll need a value for the price. And once you have those values, you take those values, which are stored in the variable, and then you write to the page. You don't write to the page inside the if conditions. The if condition is just used to get the information you need. And now here again, one thing that you can do inside your ifs, and you can just have an alert, just making sure that you got that the condition was being read and that it was executing correctly. This is something I always do inside my ifs. I don't assume that they're working. I always put something in there to show me that they're working. All right, so here again, we're demonstrating this concept of writing a few lines of code and testing. So if I save and I go over to the right and I reload, now I will enter my age, and I'll enter 10. And there we go, it says youth. All right, so I know my first condition is testing correctly. I can reload the page, and I can enter 99, and I can try it again. Now, in the event that it said youth, I would know there's a problem. All right, so just don't do the right thing, do the wrong thing also, just to make sure. So the way that this if works, if the condition is true, the code inside the curly braces will execute. If the condition is false, it will not execute. All right, now what we want an else if, and that's 2 words. And we're going to be testing for a second condition. All right, so our second condition is the age has to be greater than or equal to 13, and there's our logical operator. By the way, these are our conditional operators. Here's our logical operators, and the age has to be less than or equal to 18. All right, that's a teen. Now notice I have a red line, so that means I have a problem. Okay, what the problem is, my conditional operators are written. It's less than or equal to 18. It's still red. Great. Okay. I forgot something on the left-hand side. Hold on. If age is greater than or equal to 13, and age is less than or equal to 18. All right, there we go. Now the red line has gone away. And that's, here again, this is the Komodo editor, and that's one of the reasons I love it, because it catches your mistakes right away. Okay, so if the age is greater than or equal to 13, one condition, and age is less than or equal to 18. So we have to satisfy both conditions because it's an and. If the age falls into this range, then we're going to set a value for the category to equal teen. And now I have my alert for testing. Oops. So let me save this. And let me reload. And once again, now I will enter 15. 15. There you go. 15. Very good. Let's try again. Let's try 13. Working well. Let's try 12. Youth. Very good. Let's try 18. Working good. All right. So we're moving right along here. All right. We have another else if. And our condition here, we're looking just one final time now. Oops. If age is greater than 18. And in that case, we have category adult. And we'll just test this. Save it. And I'll put 19. There we go. One more time. Let me do 18. Okay, I think I'm good. All right. So here we have a compound condition. And in the other ones, we don't. Now, notice we did else if and else if. Now, a lot of people would just say else. They would just say else, category equals adult. And, you know, that's okay to do it that way. However, what we really should be doing all the time is we have a default else at the end, which should not be one of our conditions. It should just be essentially a catch-all in the event that something happens. All right, so what I'm going to say is there is a problem. All right, so we should have our conditions being defined in our ifs and our else ifs, and this is reserved essentially in the event that there's a problem. All right, so we pretty much have set up everything we need. We have a value for category, which is coming from our if condition. We have a value for age, which is coming from our prompt up here. Let me move these up. All right, so let's get started with how we write to the page. Now, take a look at how I have this laid out. Everything is inside one script block. You do not need multiple script blocks for different sections. Everything goes in the same place. All the JavaScript is going in the head. And you need to write to the page using getElementById. No document.writes in this assignment. Now, here are our window.onload section. And technically that could go up at top, but it's going to go down here because it makes more logical sense. Now, the if and the variables, this is all happening as the page loads. So, and these values are all being stored in memory. So they are available to this function. So they're being stored in memory. They're essentially like what is called a global scope. Therefore, when we call this function, those values will be available. The reason that we have the onload function is because we will be writing our output in this placeholder right here. And because JavaScript reads from the top down, it will not know where this placeholder is until the page has loaded. And this is the procedure when writing JavaScript. All right, so the first thing we need to do is set up our statement, and that would be document dot get element, there it is, by ID. All right, which ID? The response ID. Dot inner HTML, there it is, equals, and I'm going to go down to the next line for this, which is technically okay. Okay, so we're going to create an expression. Your age is, that's a literal, and notice I have a space here because we're going to concatenate it with a variable. So we need some room between the word is and the number. Concatenated with, and you are a, and there's the category. So this is very similar to what you'll be doing for the assignment. You'll be building an expression and using the variables that you derived from the calculations and from your if. So here again, when we work with strings and variables, because it all translates as letters, we need to put spaces in our literal expressions where they might be needed. Now remember, this is the inner HTML property of this object that is referenced by this ID. So what we're doing, we're actually going to replace all of it, not just the text, all of it, including the B. Notice on the right, hello world is bold. It will no longer be bold. So if I save that, and I reload, and let's see, we will say you are 50. There's my alerts. There you go. Notice it's no longer bold. All right, so this is essentially the process that you would use in order to work through the logic required for the assignment. Now, supposing I change to any switch statement here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just comment all this out. So that's /*. Now I'm going to ask, up here. Asterisk /. And I'm going to comment this out too, also, because JavaScript is very funny. If there's a mistake anywhere, our code might not run. So I don't want any of the old stuff there. I'm just going to comment it out in case we need it again. All right, so let's start working with our switch. And you'll see a switch being used next week when we work with date objects. A switch can be a more convenient replacement for else if. Supposing you wanted to match, you wanted to write out the date of the date. For example, Thursday, what is it, February 9th, 11th, 2016. All right, Thursday, how JavaScript works with dates, it ascribes a numeric value for the day of the week. So Thursday would be starting with 0, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would be 4. And you would have to use that 4 as a value for your variable, and then like if the value is 4, then like day equals Thursday. So a switch is a lot easier for something of that nature, and you'll be seeing that in the future in this class in a lot of sample code. All right, so it starts with the switch, and we have a condition to evaluate, and then we have our delimiters, and that's just one opening curly brace and another one. Now, what we are evaluating here, we are evaluating true. We are evaluating if the expression is true. Let's back up a minute and take a look at our if. When we said if age is less than or equal to 13, what did I say? I said if this returns true, then we're going to execute this. And we're not executing it, we're storing the value. And if it returns false, then we just move on to the next one until we find a match. So the switch is very similar. All right, we're evaluating these cases, and that's how they're set up. All right, so and my first case is going to be age is less than 13. And then I need a break. All right, I think I have a syntax error here. I hate to say that, but I always forget how to Ah, geez, sorry about that. I need to look this up. I always have a mental block on the syntax of it. Let me, let's look this up. Switch. And this is what programmers do. All right, case. Okay, the colon's on the other side. I always forget that. I always forget where that goes. Okay. All right, there you go. Okay, there we go. All right. That. Shh. There we go. Okay. Case the condition colon. All right, and then you need to have a break because it needs to just stop there. Here again, backing up a little bit with these ifs. When the condition is found to be true, the if stops right then and there. In other words, if this condition is true, it will not continue to read the else if. It stops automatically the first time it finds a true. Now, if you program your code incorrectly and your first condition is true and your second condition is true and your third condition is true, that's, it's a programming error, it's a logical error, and a syntax checker won't find it. But however, the program will stop at the first true. It's not going to go on and hit those other trues. So, which is why you need to always test to make sure that you can have the program find each of your conditions. All right, so there's our case. Now we're going to have another case, and this case is age is greater than or equal to 13, and age is less than or equal to 18. Oh, by the way, what do we need to do? We need to do our category, right? Category equals youth. All right, so we're doing the same thing, except our syntax is very, very different. All right. All right, now we have a break. All right, so let's just see if we can get it to work with what we have here. So if I were to save that and go over here and reload our page, there's our prompt, and I'm going to put 10 in here. Oh, I don't have an alert. Hold on. Let me just cancel out of here. I need to get an alert in here. There we go. There we go. There we are. Okay. So we're on the right page. Okay, so I can just copy and paste something that we do all the time here. Control V, and we need one more case, and this is age would be greater than 18, and the category is going to be adult. Adult. I'm going to comment out my alert. Now, there's also a default statement here, and that is called default. Similar to our final else, and I will just put an alert in here. There is a problem. And at this point, I can uncomment my code where I write to the page because everything is pretty much the same. Let me move over here now. And I'll reload this. And if I say we are 8 years old, there you go. If I say we are 14 years old, there we go. If I say we are 45 years old, there we go. If I say we are XYZ, There's a problem. All right, and it's you are XY. You are is XYZ, and you are an unknown. All right, so here again, the switch is a little trickier. It's not as straightforward as the if. If is more of a easy to understand English language type of expression. They both pretty much do the same thing, which can be convenient for a lot of else ifs. And so here again, we are writing to the page, your onload function, everything is inside the script block. So this pretty much wraps up the concepts that we'll be using in the assignment.